What an exciting day for Bitcoin, for the Bitcoin miners, crypto related things. We are just seeing a huge rally. We've got Clsk today up 20%, the best performing miner today, if not among the best performing. We have many others up double digits. We've got Riot up double digits, Mara up double digits, and we're seeing Bitcoin create new 52-week highs, Ethereum rallying as well. And it's a very exciting day today. But in this video, we're going to go over what a couple of the Bitcoin miners are doing. We're also going to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum on the chart, and we're also going to look at an upcoming event that could be pretty big for the market. And I just had to wear my Bitcoin shirt today. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys get something useful out of this video, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's look at what's going on today. Now, I want to feature this article, and it'll be down below for you, but I'm just going to kind of glance over it. Bitcoin extends its rally to 53,000 as government shutdown looms. But Bitcoin extended its rally Monday, today, after a brief flat stint, while Ethereum broke out to new highs not seen in almost 2 years. And equities traded sideways ahead of a busy week of economic news and as a potential government shutdown looms. And we do have something important coming up for the market on Thursday, and this is going to be core PCE. And this article mentions that one of the main reasons stocks were able to look past the hot CPI and PPI recently was because the Chicago Fed president said that the Fed doesn't really follow CPI and instead focused on the core PCE price index. And looking at US core PCE year over year, you'll see that we've been in a pretty steady downtrend, working our way well towards 2%. Well, the next release is on Thursday, February 29, and what we really want to see on our next read is, for one, definitely being under 3%, and two, hopefully being under our last read's numbers, this 2.93. If we can get like a 2.8, 2.7 perhaps, I do think the market would see a little pop. And I do think this would also increase the odds in our favor of seeing rate cuts. It seems as we keep progressing throughout this year, we keep seeing the likelihood of rate cuts just getting pushed out and pushed out. While seeing a good core PCE might breathe a sigh of relief in the market, but we also have something else important coming up, and this is going to be in the following week. But there's another thing to watch out for. Government shutdown looms. I don't think we'll see it, but they will come to a decision last second like they typically do. But before that, we'll see bickering on the left and right of who's wrong and who's right, like always. But in the end, they gotta get their crap together and come to an agreement. But there's definitely another thing to watch out for. You could see a lot of volatility coming up to this shutdown deadline. Now, I also gotta quickly mention Bitcoin on the chart. Of course, we just broke 52-week highs. We're at levels we haven't seen since like 2021. Now, the only thing that's concerning here a bit, I would have preferred to see Bitcoin go a little more sideways, maybe see a little more of a healthy retracement, but Bitcoin is becoming overbought again on the daily, and honestly quite overbought on the weekly. I would normally look at this and be a bit worried, definitely anticipate some pullback here. However, look at what happened last cycle right around the same time. Well, we started running, became much overbought before we finally had our first pullback. So, you know, when you compare the RSI of the weekly here, sorry that's in the way, but when you compare the RSI of the weekly right here compared to back here, right around the same timeline in the cycle, I definitely think we can become much more overbought on Bitcoin before seeing, you know, a pretty dramatic pullback. Now, of course, we do have the previous cycle to look at, and you guys, of course, remember that once in a lifetime world health event that happened caused stocks to dump, caused crypto to dump. Well, you know, it really didn't last that long. So, of course, you can look forward to potentially seeing a pullback like we did last cycle, but at the same time, you know, we don't have to see this hard pullback like we did last cycle. And if you don't feel like you have sufficient positions in the Bitcoin miners, the cryptos, whatever, you know, you got to decide yourself. Are you going to just DCA? Are you going to sit on the sidelines and hope for a pullback and hope that you don't catch FOMO later if we don't get a pullback? You know, and in my eyes, the best option still is just DCA and try your best to keep some cash on the sidelines. If we do see a nice pullback, you know, I know it's easier said than done, but I do believe DCAing with extra buys when we do see pullbacks is the way to go. But some of you, of course, have different strategies. But we are still very early in the cycle. Things are just starting to get kicked off here. And while Bitcoin is a bit overbought on the weekly, it could definitely continue running before we see a pretty considerable pullback. Now, I also want to mention Clsk, the best performing miner today that I'm aware of. I know there's a lot of others that are up double digits, but Clsk right now is about 23% up, and we just saw a huge pump from like 16 all the way to 20 now, just created new 52-week highs. And while it's still a similar story with Bitcoin, while we're still overbought on the weekly, we're overbought on the daily, this could definitely continue running. This could definitely get even more overbought. So I would be on the belief that we are going to see a pullback at some point. We're definitely on the overbought side of things. However, that doesn't mean we can't keep running from here and become even more overbought. But my main point in saying that is just be cautious. You know, on a day like this, you don't typically want to buy on a 20% up day. You typically want to buy on a decent red day, a decent pullback in an overall bullish trend. But I do believe there's a reason that CleanSpark is among the best performing miners. They saw a profitable quarter, and I do think that's a theme to look out for. If you see other Bitcoin miners posting profitable quarters, I do think it'll bring a lot more hype into them as well. But regardless of all of these Bitcoin miners seeing profitability or not, a lot of these miners, regardless of that, even if unprofitable, will still run. But seeing any Bitcoin miners in the future post a profitable quarter is definitely a major bonus ahead of the halving and ahead of 2025. And for any of you wondering, I did have $16 covered calls. I did roll those into March 15 expiration, 2250 covered calls for CleanSpark. And at the rate we're going, it looks like I might soon have to roll them out again, go for a 25 or maybe a higher strike price. But you know, one thing you could be doing on these Bitcoin miners when they run is selling covered calls, although there is definitely risk to it. Another thing you could be doing is buying a very long time frame call. For instance, I have some $5 strike Sphere 3D calls that expire in like January 2025, and those will give me the ability to either potentially close the call out, make a good amount of premium, or execute the contract and acquire 100 shares of Sphere 3D down the road for $5. Now, if Sphere 3D is only $5 by January, well, that wasn't a very good option then. However, if Sphere 3D somehow makes it to like $10, $15 by the expiration of that contract, I could be acquiring Sphere 3D for $5 at that time. So I do think it's very lucrative to get into some of these Bitcoin miners with really far out calls, a bit out there on the strike, just because they're so cheap. And when these things start running, when they do start getting closer to those strike prices, you will see a huge amount of premium increase on those options. But I keep sidetracking myself. I feel like this is going to turn into like a 15-20 minute video, so I gotta start wrapping it up here. But I do want to mention wgmi, and this is a Bitcoin mining ETF. They also hold things like AMD, so it's not just the Bitcoin miners. But you know, for those of you that kind of want overall exposure to the space, you're not sure which miner to get, or you have a couple miners but you kind of want more generalized exposure, well, you could definitely go with this Bitcoin mining ETF. Now, I will tell you off the bat that their total expense ratio is a 0.75%, which isn't horrible, but you should be aware of that. And I want to show you their holdings because I think you'll be very excited. I think you'll be very proud to see that CleanSpark is the top holdings in this ETF, followed by Mara, Iris Energy, Riot, Nvidia, Bitfarms, Wolf, Hive. I mean, you see the names. We got BTBT there. That's great. But yeah, this isn't just Bitcoin miners. We also have semiconductor companies. You know, we had Nvidia, you saw. We also have AMD. We also have Taiwan Semiconductor. So I do think this is a very interesting fund to get into. And just look at the type of day it's having today. Roughly a 14% up day. So as all of their holdings go up in value, as CleanSpark rises, Nvidia, all these Bitcoin miners rise, well, this ETF is going to obviously rise in price as well. And we're reaching a couple interesting points here. Now, I'd say it doesn't make too much sense to try to chart WGMI, but we are facing a few resistance points, and maybe the market reacts to it. But we do have a resistance here at $21, and we also have a resistance at roughly $22.50. If we can see a couple more good days between the Bitcoin miners and whatever else we have in this fund, well, WGMI could definitely break out of this $22.50 area, go on to create new 52-week highs, and it'll definitely catch some attention of the market. But you will see that this flashed a golden cross back in late December, and despite after flashing that golden cross seeing a pullback, you know, things are looking good. It's above its 50 and 200 MA, and they are both ascending. And I do expect this trend to continue. I mean, we're in the best part of the timeline per Bitcoin halving. The only better time to have been in these Bitcoin miners or funds like WGMI would have been throughout 2023. The best next time is now. I also want to quickly mention BTBT. I do expect BTBT to have a huge rally in anticipation of the spot Ethereum ETFs. And right now, I see sort of a broadening pattern. We have this support that we've established right here at this 230 area. It was a previous resistance. We did utilize that as a support. But we kind of have this broadening pattern. We keep finding resistance on a higher level of this kind of ascending wedge thing, megaphone pattern, whatever you want to call it. But I am taking advantage of BTBT with premium made from selling calls on CleanSpark right now, and just dollar cost averaging into it. They are a Bitcoin miner. They also stake Ethereum, and as the months progress, they continue staking more and more Ethereum as they get their rewards for staking. So it's kind of a snowballing effect. Also, they made their first bit of revenue from their AI contract. So that's going to be another exciting thing we should see ramp up with BTBT. But yeah, this is another miner I just wanted to mention you guys and tell you that I have been adding to this one. I am taking advantage of it being down roughly 40-something% from its recent peak. And of course we have Ethereum, broke 3,000 recently, and it looks like it just wants to keep running. Similar to Bitcoin, this is becoming overbought on the daily, on the weekly, but also similar to Bitcoin, it can definitely continue rallying and go much more overbought than we are here. So yes, we could keep running. However, we are still technically overbought, so just be cautious here. But yes, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum could definitely continue rallying, becoming even more overbought before we see, you know, a decent pullback. And guys, we are now only 54 days away from the halving. The clock is ticking. It's just crazy how time flies. Before you know it, we'll be looking at only a few days away from the halving. Now is not the time to give up on Bitcoin. Now is not the time to give up on the Bitcoin miners. I do think things are still ramping up. Things are still just setting up to getting exciting. And in reality, things have been very, very exciting so far. But I do believe this is just the beginning and there is more to come. But let me know what you guys think about today. Are you selling covered calls on some of your positions since they're running up so much? Are you trimming a little bit and anticipating a pullback? Let me know your strategy for the week. Keep an eye on this potential government shutdown that's looming, and get ready for PCE coming out in only a few days. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.